Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, and whenever you're watching this video, I'd like to welcome you. I'm Glenn. It's nice to see you guys again. Happy holidays, happy new year. Well, it's not quite the new year yet when I'm shooting this, but maybe by the time you're seeing it, it will be 2021. Are you guys having a good winter break? What kind of Christmas gifts did you get? And what kind of resolutions have you made for the new year? I'm really curious to hear about this kind of stuff. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave your answers down in the comments. Now for me, I'll give you guys a quick update about how December has been, because the last time I put out a video was actually right before Thanksgiving break. So we haven't been together for about a month now. First, I had my baby daughter. Now, her picture is gonna go up here. Her name is Haley. She is really cute and she's with mommy right now. And I'm so, it's such a weird feeling, but I'm super happy to be a father. And I'll tell you guys more about her and about what that journey is like as we keep going. And you know, I'm always gonna put pictures and videos up just because I want to show off my daughter too. Now let's get into today's lesson. Over the past couple lessons that we've had, we started talking about thoughts. We talked about how we're gonna look at everything that happens in our lives through the lenses of thoughts, whether they be good things or bad things. Why did that happen? Why do I feel this way? What kind of thought contributed to that? After that, we kind of talked about how thoughts go through their life cycle. Thoughts get born. Some thoughts, they get born and they die right away. But some thoughts stay a little longer, and we kind of entertain that thought, but maybe we think, that's impossible. Or, oh, there's something better. That thought leaves and a new one replaces it. But some thoughts really stick around, they take root inside of our hearts, they grow, and eventually they lead to an action. We talked about two examples of two very famous people, but famous for very different reasons, right? One, do you remember who he was? He was a very famous basketball player. That's right, Kobe Bryant. And two was someone who was actually very infamous for being one of the most evil people in history. That was Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazis. Now, two very, very different paths. One went a super good path, one went a super bad path. But the start was the same. It all depended on what kind of thought really took root inside of their heart and grew and led their path on a certain trajectory. Today, we're gonna take it a step further. It's easy to look at other people in history, especially famous people, and be like, oh yeah, when Kobe was little and when he set his heart on fulfilling his dream of being a basketball player, that's what led him this way. Oh yeah, when Adolf Hitler was young and he failed at being an artist, and when he started to develop a hatred and a resentment of the Jewish people, that's what eventually led him to become the leader of the Nazis. It's easy to look at people in history and to kind of label that, but what about for us? Let me ask you, all right? Do you know what kinds of thoughts you have inside your heart right now? Which ones are good for you? Which ones are bad for you? Do you know which kind of thoughts you want to really accept and nurture and grow, and which ones you want to cut off and throw away? Do you know which thoughts are making you happy and making you content and satisfied? And on the other hand, do you know which thoughts are making you to feel miserable or isolated or depressed or difficult right now? It's not always easy to distinguish. Let me show you guys a picture. Take a look at this. Does anyone know what movie this is from? These jelly beans are called Bertie Bott's beans. They're from the Harry Potter movies. Don't know if you've seen them. They were really, fun when I was growing up. I watched all of them, read the books too. But I think in the first movie of Harry Potter, the main character Harry and his best friend Ron are riding the Hogwarts Express, this train that's gonna take them to Hogwarts to become wizards. Now on this train, they first encounter the candy cart. And in the candy cart, they sell all kinds of magical candies. Among those candies are these jelly beans, Bertie Bott's beans. Now, if you look at these jelly beans, you can tell that there's 20, 25, I don't know, a lot of flavors here, right? Some of these flavors are really good, but if you look closely, some of them are also really terrible at the same time. For example, banana, blueberry, cinnamon, cherry, candy floss, green apple, those all sound like really great flavors, right? Jelly beans are usually a fruit flavor, and those all sound fine. But at the same time, there's some really terrible ones too. For example, booger, black pepper, earthworm, soap, vomit, and grass. Oh, and there's earwax and sausage too. I don't know about you guys, but none of those ones sound flattering to me at all. I would not want to eat those. The problem is when you get a big bag or a big bowl of jelly beans, like I don't know if your teacher ever had like a big jar of jelly beans at her desk. Sometimes when I was little, I would go to the bank or I would go to the hospital, or sometimes I'd even go to school, and the teacher or the secretary or the doctor, whoever, would always have a big jar of jelly beans. And if you don't have this little paper to tell you what's what, you're gonna dig your hand in there and you're gonna pop one into your mouth, and it could end up being a booger jelly bean. Who wants to eat that? Not me. The thing is, how are we gonna tell what's what just by looking at it? This is kind of how it is in our hearts. And that's what I wanna talk about today. Which thoughts are harmful for us versus which thoughts are beneficial? How can we distinguish them? And after we distinguish, how can we start to distance ourselves from the thoughts that are causing us harm? And how can we grow closer and nurture those thoughts that are actually benefiting us? This will be today's topic, so let's get into it. Now today, for my example, I want to tell you guys a story, all right? Fun fact about me. When I was 18 or 19 years old, I think I was 18 actually, I had finished my first year of college, my freshman year, and then I took a year off. And I went to a country in West Africa called Ghana. Has anyone ever heard of or been to Ghana before? Maybe you know someone from Ghana. It's actually a really beautiful country in Western Africa. When I went to Ghana, I stayed there for a little over a year, and I was doing volunteer work with the ENYFA organization that does this mind education program. When I was there, I had a lot of fun, a lot of adventures. You guys are probably looking at some pictures of me right now saying, wow, Mr. Glenn, you were so skinny and so much younger back then. Hey, that's true, okay? That was over 10 years ago. That was a long time ago. That was 2008, okay? So that's like what? Almost, 12, 13 years from now? Anyways, when I was in Ghana, I had a great time. But one day, after having lunch, I started to feel very, very weird in my stomach. And this weird feeling started to turn into like a stomach ache. And this stomach ache started to feel like I was gonna have diarrhea. I'm sorry to talk about this, guys. I hope you didn't just have breakfast or lunch, but I gotta tell the story, okay? So don't blame me for being honest, but there's a reason why I'm sharing this. Now, I started to have that feeling like I was gonna have diarrhea. Have you guys ever had that feeling before? Like you're like, oh my God, if I don't get to the toilet in the next 5 minutes, there's gonna be some trouble, right? So I started to have this feeling and I went to the bathroom, and then I had diarrhea and it was terrible, but it was done. I thought, oh, it must have been something I ate for lunch. And then I went about my day, but about 1 hour later, I started to feel the same thing again. What again? What's wrong? Do I have some bug in my stomach? I went back to the bathroom. But after that, about 30 minutes later, I had to go again. And after that, another 30 minutes later, I had to go again. And for some reason that day, I went to the bathroom like 10 times. But you know, it wasn't that I just had to keep going to the bathroom and I kept having a stomach problem. I started to get a fever. My temperature shot right up. But you know what the weird thing was? Even though my temperature was going up and I was sweating, I started to feel really cold. Like so cold I was trembling. And I laid down in my room and I covered myself up with my blankets. And even though I covered myself up, I kept shivering and my teeth kept clattering. You know, like how like it's really cold outside these days, right? Like how you do when you're super cold. But in Ghana, the temperature is always like 100 degrees, 95, 96 degrees. And even when it gets cool, maybe it gets down to the low 80s. Everyone else was hot and sweating, and I was sweating too, but I was cold. They call this a cold sweat. So I had diarrhea. I had a fever, but I was cold. I had a cold sweat. And then the worst part was I started to get something called a full body ache. Have you guys ever had a headache before? Probably, right? Everyone's had a headache. But imagine a headache, but you feel it throughout your whole body. Like literally from head to toe, everything in my body hurt, okay? My ears hurt, my eyeballs hurt, my fingernails hurt, my arms, my chest, my stomach, my legs, my feet, my toes. Every bone, every muscle, every joint, every nerve hurt. It was the worst pain I ever felt. Now, I had never had symptoms like this before in my life, and I didn't know what it was. But in our organization, there was a nurse, and she took a sample of my blood, And then she looked at my blood under the microscope. And do you know what they found when she tested my blood? She called me over and she said, Glenn, you have something called malaria. Now, has anyone here watching this ever gotten malaria before? If you have, I hope you guys write about it in the comments and tell me a little bit about your experience, because it was not pleasant for me. And I was so shocked. I was like, malaria? What's malaria? Where did that come from? How do you get it? She told me. Malaria is transmitted to people by mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are very, very common in Ghana. Do you know why? Because number one, it's super hot. And number two, whenever there's a lot of water, whenever it's very moist and humid, mosquitoes like to lay their eggs in those places, and those eggs hatch, and then you get even more mosquitoes that have malaria flying around. So you're always getting bit by mosquitoes. And when there's mosquitoes with malaria, when they bite you, that germ is gonna enter your blood and it's gonna travel throughout your body. And I thought, really? So the reason why I'm feeling all these symptoms is I have malaria? Oh my God, I had no idea that this could happen. But after she looked at the symptoms, and then she told me what the problem was, then she told me number three, what I had to do to fight the sickness. She told me first, you have to sleep in a mosquito net. So we set up a mosquito net where I was sleeping so that way less mosquitoes would bite me while I was recovering. Number two, you can't be around those places where there's a lot of water and puddles and swamps. So I did not stay in the place where I was anymore. I had to leave and go back to the city where there were less mosquitoes. Number three, I had to take medicine to help me get over the symptoms. And number four, I had to eat a lot of food. Now you guys, needless to say, in about a week or 2 weeks time, I got better. But you know, because I kept having diarrhea and because I was so sick, guess what? In about 1 week's time, I'm not lying, okay? You guys might not believe this, but I lost 20 pounds. Okay, I lost 20 pounds in 1 week. I didn't do any exercise, I didn't do anything, I was just sick and I lost 20 pounds. Now maybe you're thinking, wow, Mr. Glenn, that's a pretty good diet idea. Do not think that, okay? Super painful, not worth it. Do not get malaria if you don't have to. Because not only did I catch it that time, I ended up catching it 4 times. But you know, after the first time, the next time I started to have similar symptoms, like a fever, a cold sweat, diarrhea, and a body ache, I realized, oh yeah, last time I had the same problem. That must mean I have malaria again. And then I could tell my leader, and my leader could get some medicine for me, and I could rest and recover and get better. The earlier I found out that I had it, the quicker I was able to start taking medicine, and sometimes I could avoid getting really sick for 1 or 2 weeks like I did the first time. Now you guys, if we review, I talked about 3 steps in my malaria journey. Number 1, recognizing the symptoms. Number 2, tracing the symptoms back to the source. Why do I feel this way? Why do I have this problem? And number 3, after realizing what the source and what the problem is, then doing something to prevent it, doing something to recover from it. Symptoms, source, and then the solution. How do we distinguish between the thoughts that are beneficial for us and the thoughts that are harmful? Why is it that when we're inside of a harmful thought, we don't even realize it? But for some reason, I'm miserable. For some reason, I'm depressed. For some reason, I'm isolated, and I don't know why. We don't really think about that, do we? We just kind of get into that rut and we're stuck in it. Just however I feel, that's how I'm gonna be. Not many people really trace it back and find the reason why. It's just like if you have a dirty room, okay? Now imagine, I don't know about you guys, right? Usually, when I'm on my own, my room gets messy really quickly. There's clothes everywhere. There's empty water bottle, empty soda can. Okay, sometimes, right, I'll eat some cup noodles. I don't know if you guys like cup noodles. I'm half Korean, so I love cup noodles. I'll have the old cup noodle cup and some chopsticks in the corner. The room can get messy. Now, when the room gets messy like that, and I walk inside, what am I gonna start to notice? There's a smell, right? There's dust everywhere. There's, nowhere to really sit down, and it's hard to walk around because I might step on something dirty. If it's the summertime and you leave garbage around, what's gonna happen? You're gonna get ants, you might get fleas, your room can get worse and worse. Now you notice that you have ants, you notice that there's a smell, you notice that there's fleas, but then if you just stop there, that problem's just gonna continue on and on and on. And if you just sit there thinking, why is my room so filthy? Why is my room so nasty? Why does it smell bad? Nothing's gonna change. What do I have to do? I have to start finding the source. I look in the corner, I see nothing. I look under my pillow, I see nothing. But if I look under my bed, there's that old cup noodle cup. I need to throw this out in the garbage. Why are there ants? I spilled some Pepsi on my desk and I didn't wipe it up. That's why the ants are coming. I take a wet wipe, I wipe it, I throw the can away, no more ants. You guys, when we start to see the symptoms that are causing us a lot of hardship in our life, then we can think about where did it come from. All these different kinds of people we talked about until now. We saw the symptoms, right? We saw the things that happened in their life. When we look back, we can find the thought that it all started from. So how about us? What kind of symptoms are you going through right now? Are you depressed? Are you having difficulty? Are you super angry at someone and you're not able to get over it? Are you kind of hopeless? Are you in despair when you think about having to face the new year? Are you sad? Are you cutting yourself off from other people? You guys, I don't know. All of us have different kinds of hardships. A lot of us say we suffer from anxiety or from stress. But that's just looking at the symptom. What kind of thought took root in your heart and led to that problem? Let's trace it back and find the source. Why did I have the fever? Why did I have the diarrhea? It was because of malaria. When I realize what the problem is, that's when I can start to do something about it. I need to set up a mosquito net. I need to get away from places where there's a lot of water because that's where there's more mosquitoes. I need to start taking medicine. When I realize that there's a thought that came inside my heart that is making me miserable, then I can do something about it too. Is this thought really true? Where did this thought come from? How can I get rid of this thought? Maybe I should talk to someone about this and check and see if what I'm thinking is really true or not. It all starts with looking at the symptoms, finding the source, and then figuring out how to prevent myself from falling into that thought, from being dragged by that thought next time. Once we realize that, then even though this bowl of jelly beans looks very confusing, we'll realize, the yellow one, that's the vomit flavor. No, thank you. The green one, that's the grass flavor. No thanks. We'll be able to distinguish, and then our lives will become much more organized as we distance ourselves away from the thoughts that don't make us happy. We become closer with the thoughts that will. As we continue to do these lessons, we'll learn about how to distinguish between these thoughts and how to really nurture our hearts to go on a path that's gonna make us happy. And that will allow us to overcome our difficulties and those thoughts that make us feel depressed or make us feel angry or anxious or stressed. Now I have a couple questions for you to think about. You can write in the comments and leave your answers, or you can share it with your teacher and your classmates if you have time. The first question is, I want you to do a thought exercise. What are some reoccurring thoughts you've had, and what kind of symptoms have they created in your life? And number two, what do you think you can do to actually be freed from that thought? What are some things you can do to start to really clean up your heart and clean up your mind from those thoughts that are giving you those symptoms? So those two questions I'll leave up here for you to think about, write about, or talk about. And then I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Bye everyone, and happy holidays.